Now, just last month, the United States Olympic and Paralympic committees announced a financial assistance program that will give athletes access to $100,000 in retirement benefit for each games they appeared in. Located a few hours to the south is the United States' greatest sprint rivals on the track, Jamaica. And a prominent Jamaican analyst and SportsMax.tv chief writer, Leighton Levy, is leading a call for the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association to follow suit. In an article published on the SportsMax.tv website, Levy pointed to steps that could be followed to ensure the functionality and success of the country's own retirement fund. Levy says the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Sport should support this effort with legislative frameworks and matching contributions. Corporate Jamaica should back it financially and publicly. But to succeed, the fund must be managed independently and transparently with qualified financial managers and trustees, annual audits and public reporting, strict criteria for athlete eligibility, caps on administrative expenses to ensure funds are used for athletes, not bureaucracy. Now, former 100-meter Olympic champion and world record holder, Jamaica-born Canadian Donovan Bailey, has come out in support of the proposed retirement fund, pointing to administrative failures for non-existence of one up to this point. Well, Bailey now joins us via Zoom to share more. Donovan, now welcome to the SportsMax Zone. I know that you are in constant dialogue with Leighton Levy, and I suspect that you had a close look at the opinion piece he wrote, and you can tell us now your thoughts of it.
Yeah, I mean, Leighton and I went to Knox together.
Yes.
I've known Leighton for 100 years. Absolutely, I agree with what Leighton has said. I think it's very important. You know, the sports, the athletes that represent the country are some of the greatest ambassadors, and for that, I think that they should be rewarded. Certainly, the article that Leighton wrote is absolutely on point. I mean, if the U.S. is leading the charge in at least showing that it's possible to set up a fund for athletes that compete for the country, then I think Jamaica absolutely should follow.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you saw the social media posts from Asafa Powell, because there's been huge, intense even, debate on the pronouncements of Asafa Powell. A lot of people are criticizing some of the things he said, suggesting he's unpatriotic, for suggesting that he may have decided earlier on in his career to shift his allegiance because of the financial rewards that were there. But a lot of people accepting that athletes have given a lot of themselves during their competing years, and it is unfair for them at the end of their careers to be struggling to make ends meet. Did you see what Asafa said, and are you on the same page with him?
Well, one, I didn't see what Asafa said, but just based on what you just said to me, yeah, I'm going to agree with Asafa, because ultimately the time commitment and like I said, the ambassadorial roles, the things that you choose to do, although it is voluntary to represent your country, it is time. And it's time spent, representing, and it's time spent training. Most countries, what they have, not most countries, there are a few countries that aligns the sport itself to something like doing time in representing your country, like those in the army. So yes, I mean, I think that Asafa, if Asafa is talking about the value of the time and the energy that is spent, and he's thinking about the next generation in representation, he has to look at it from a business perspective.
Yeah, talk to us quickly about your experience with the Canadian Olympic Committee and the athletics bosses in Canada. While you were competing, I remember watching you live, winning the 1996 Olympic 100-meter final with an explosive last 40 meters. At the 50-meter mark, you weren't really there, but next thing we knew, Donovan Bailey was flying past Atto Bolden and everyone else to win gold. Talk to us about your experience competing, the financial help that you got as a Canadian, and what has happened for you financially since your retirement. When I say financially, I'm not talking about your own initiatives now. If it is right, that Canada as a country has taken care of you.
Well, yeah, listen, I mean, here's what happens. There's so much more money today, and there's so much more money today to spend on the current athletes that are competing. In Canada, what Athletics Canada has, or the Canadian Olympic Committee, they have an athletic trust. So this operates like an RSP, so retirement savings plan, or a 401k, as I think it's referred to in the U.S. And it is essentially what it is. All the money that you earned is put into a trust. That trust is managed. That trust can be managed by you. And what I did was I found someone independent outside of the trust to manage my trust. That was so the money was within the trust, but certainly you can find someone independent to manage that, and it stays there. And so that's what Canada has set up. There's certainly a lot more. There's certainly a lot more going on today, but I would think that something like that would work really good in Jamaica or in other countries. Like I said, you can align that where the Minister of Sport and the Minister of Tourism is helping support some of these athletes, or you could the model of having an army, or in Athletics Canada, there's a trust that's there. And for me, because of my financial background, I manage my trust quite well. So I've done okay.
Yeah, and I think I believe it was you, yes, that Leighton interviewed in response to his article, Donovan. And one of the points that really stood out for me that you made was that, this fund, this retirement fund, cannot be based on age. And I said, And then, of course, the example of Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce was used because, she's still competing even at an age where most athletes, would retire and all of that. So you're here with me now. So I'm going to ask you to explain that one for me.
Well, I mean, there's no athlete that can be based upon age. I mean, I think the standard employment retirement age is 65. You're never going to have any athlete that's probably going to be competing. I'm talking about like regular sport, regular team sport or regular individual sport. You're not going to have someone retiring at 65. But so that would be a set age. Now you have individual athletes that are doing exceptionally well. I mean, Shelly-Ann Fraser is not only one of the greatest women sprinters ever in history, but also now one of the oldest sprinters. So at the end of the day, you can't put that on age because she's competing at the top of of the mark against her competitors. So ultimately, I believe that it has to be set on if there is like the caveat has to be either a major injury or it's after you've officially announced. It has to be maybe a year past your actual retirement so that people don't abuse the system by having a fund, going in, retiring, kind of emptying it, and then going back to compete again. So I'm saying to you that it can't be on age because ultimately father time always wins. And so ultimately what you want to do is make sure that the athlete is competing at the highest level. They are certainly making an income. And then if they have a major injury, there's a fund to support them. And when they officially retire, they've got money that's been put away and managed properly for them to spend in their retirement age.
Yeah, I'm glad you also brought up that point about, the misuse or the abuse of the fund, because Donovan, once there's an opportunity, people find a way to, of course, and I like to say make it bad for others because, if you abuse a particular system in place and there are no checks and balances, then it really makes it bad for those that are yet to come. And, these things can prevent the others from benefiting. So I'm happy that you made that point. So one of the things I tend to believe is the start of anything good is via conversation, by educating others about it, just starting the conversation. But then, we can just talk. Talk is cheap, eh? How do we move into the implementation phase? And who would be needed, Donovan, to ensure that, we get the ball rolling?
Well, I mean, ultimately, if we're talking track and field, I think that, I think that the International Olympic Committee and I think that it will start at International Olympic Committee. It starts there. And then essentially, then it becomes a per country. I think that if the International Olympic Committee or World Athletics essentially have a plan that each country could follow, or each country could implement, then I think that's where it would start from. This would take then unification of all the governing bodies, a discussion amongst all of them, and to let them all understand that this is really for the good of the sport, the good of the longevity of the sport, and the protection of all the athletes that are competing at the highest level at the Olympics and the World Championships and representing their country. So I'm just saying, for me, it starts at the highest level, and then it's the unification of all the countries.
Yeah, one of the things that is debatable in this topic, though, Donovan, is the spread and the sort of dimension of athlete that will benefit from this. Because I can tell you that a lot of the people who are criticizing Asafa Powell and saying that he's ungrateful and all of that, they are thinking about the Asafa Powells and the Usain Bolts and the Shelley Ann Fraser Prices of this world,
right,
who have been very successful. So the financial benefits are there for them. But those athletes are in the minority. And there are many athletes who are world standard, but they are no Usain Bolt. There are no world record holders. There are no, they don't command the kind of deals that Adidas and Nike and Puma would be drawn to. So is there something to be said about this, like a scale of the athletes that would benefit from something like an insurance fund or a retirement fund, from the standpoint that, it sort of would match what you presented?
Well, listen, I mean, and here's what people don't understand. I mean, in any sport, there's only like 3 to 5% success rate. There's 3 to 5% of people making a large amount of money that's gonna make them financially healthy over a lifetime. I mean, the fact that Leighton is bringing this up, this is to protect. This would be to protect. Think about the incredible athletes. I mean, I was just at Champs a couple of weeks ago. Think about the incredible athletes that are there competing. Think about some of those very young athletes who go on to sign a shoe contract, but then, whether it's injury or whatever happens, they don't make it to the seniors or the international level. It is to protect those people. Say, for instance, you're in high school and you sign a shoe contract, or in the case in the U.S. now, the name, image, and likeness contract, so a nil contract, that you're making some money. Now, if you can contribute to a fund that's going to help you later on in life, it is for you. Those athletes who make a lot of money, those athletes who win world championships and Olympic championships and break world records, there's very few and far between.
Yeah, the other thing,
ultimately, for me, it's for those young kids. It's for those, and it's for 95% of the people that you don't hear about, other than their glimpse of success at some point in their life.
Yeah, the other thing that we've got to consider, Donovan, you can speak on this, is the fact that track and field as a sport is not a financially glorious landscape for the athletes, because I would suspect that one of the least known NBA player right now will make several percentage in excess of what an Olympic bronze medalist may get, who is not, as I said, at a level of a Bolt or a Shelley Ann Fraser Price or a Elaine Thompson-Herah. So track and field is a sport that is struggling, which is why the Michael Johnson Grand Slam project came into being, to try to lift the financial possibilities for athletes, because the sport itself doesn't earn for the athletes anywhere close to what other sports earn for their stars.
Well, you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. The least known NBA player will make a couple of $1 million over their lifetime, regardless.
I would say more than a couple. I would say tens of millions. No, for real.
Well, yeah,
there are NBA players who we don't consider superstars. I think they earn like $12 million per year.
Well,
and a track and field athlete who isn't a Usain Bolt or at that level will probably earn half that over his or her entire career, which may span 10, 15 years.
You are correct. There are NBA players who played college basketball. I'm a huge basketball fan. I played basketball in college, but an NBA player who gets drafted out of college and is sitting on the bench and you'll never hear of, will make way more money than probably the number 5 sprinter in the world.
Yes.
Right. This is part of what it is. And sometimes we're watching the Olympics and you're watching the Olympics or the World Championships, and sometimes you don't really understand that the 8 men that you see lining up or the 8 women that you see lining up, the disparity between the highest earner in that field and the person that's just there trying to make it, it's very, very close. It is very, very close. Right. And so ultimately for me, you're right. There is money. One of the things I speak to track athletes about is finding balance, understanding saving and investing is very important, because there is not that massive kitty that's available. Hence the reason why a fund would work very well. If you have sponsors, the sponsors that you get, a small percentage of that would go into a fund that will pay you later on. So when you're not earning, when you're not on the track, when you're not attempting to make money, you certainly can do that. So I'm just saying that all of this, for me, all of this would work. I mean, I know that, for instance, the Players Association in the NBA, I don't know the exact figure, but I think it's $10,000. Every single player in the NBA will contribute $10,000 a year. Now, to the Players Union. Now, the Players Union protects you. It gives you physical education, therapy, doctors, surgery, and retirement. It gives you a whole lot of things. That's not available in track and field. So I think a fund, I think what the article that Leighton has wrote, and hopefully I helped inject more life into this, that is very necessary. Michael Johnson with the Grand Slam is a great idea. For me, I thought that a track meet over 3 days might be a tough sell, but again, I think that Michael's onto something. I think it's incredible that all of these athletes have an opportunity to make $100,000. You know what I mean? I mean, and if you're matching that with other sports, in golf or in tennis, every one of those purses, those are, they're millions of dollars per competition, so again, we cannot compare that to any of the individual sport there is. You can never compare, from an earning perspective, you can never compare track and field to tennis or golf, which would be the same individual sport that's similar to it.
Yeah. What would you say to the view that as a country like Jamaica with its struggling economy, government has to balance things, and government has to look at health and education, which are suffering entities, and it's just not physically possible for them to extend the kind of investment to sport as a lot of people are saying. What would your response be to that comment?
Well, I mean, I know a little bit about politics, and ultimately, I know that every year there's funds and this is in every country. This is not just Jamaica. There's funds that are allotted to sports. There's funds that are allotted to tourism, and there's funds that are allotted to the economy. So ultimately, if you have a group of young people that are representing your country and at the highest level, and are accomplishing incredible things, then the government needs to allot some funds to make sure that those people that are representing the country is well taken care of.
Donovan, great talking to you here on this topic. It is a topic that has been making the rounds here in Jamaica for the past week or so because, as I said, of comments that Asafa Paul made recently. And I think the debate will continue because I have not seen in my journalistic lifetime governments attach the level of importance to sport that they should. And I see no sign that will happen in the near future. But we appreciate.
But remember, I don't mean to interrupt, but remember, most lotteries in most countries were set in place to support these kind of initiatives. Yeah. So I'm saying that, I mean, the government can liaise with Supreme Ventures or whomever,
Yes.
or the Lottery Corps.
Yes.
And again, this is a nominal amount of money to support these incredible representation.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to you that there could be, that's having the conversation. That's where it should start then.
Yeah. All right, Donovan, I take your point, and I hope that the discussion that we've had for the past 12 or 13 minutes will go a far way into sensitizing people on this issue, and we hope that we can continue this discussion on another occasion. Thanks, Donovan.
Anytime.
Yeah, Donovan Bailey there, 1996 Olympic 100-meter gold medalist and former world record holder as well. Born in Jamaica, represented Canada, and is now doing very well for himself. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.